Welcome to Cause Before Symptom with your host, James Carner.
The Black Nobility's hand in the rise of Nick Fuentes, and the Groypers. You're going to learn something new. Stick around. Welcome to Cause Before Symptom. I'm your host, James Carner. Today is September 15th, 2025. Tonight's episode is all about the Groypers, the Black Nobility, and Nick Fuentes, who just is exploding right now on TikTok and other social media, and even Milo is coming back to save the right. I'm telling you, strange stuff, because all of this just happened. Now, I've heard of the Groypers, but I never really did any research on them. And what I find interesting is they stole information from Q and the QAnon thing. Okay, they stole Pepe the Frog. And we're going to learn all about that too as well. It's going to be a very long show, so tighten up and get your coffee, buttercups. Shout out to everybody on the live chat Rumble. We've got Boots Hafner, #1, saying, all right, Warriors, come out and pray ye. Hello, James and Warrior family. Everyone is doing well. Hope everyone is. Let's go ahead and hit that thumbs up button and then hit the X and then the live chat and everything will be right. Yes, Rumble does not give me any love unless you hit the thumbs up. I need more likes. The more likes, the more the Rumble's algorithm will put me up there and get more people to watch this. Thank you, Boots. Love you, buddy. And #2 Warrior is Jeffrey. Jeffrey says, hey, y'all, do you believe the elites are using numerology and astrology to coordinate things? 100%. Wasn't it Trump who said that millionaires use, I think, was it Trump? Anyway, millionaires use psychics and mediums, and billionaires use astronomy. Yeah, dude, they do. All the Black Nobility use both, okay? And that's why they made it evil in the Bible. So you don't go look into it because God will get mad. I'm telling you, they have done so much to flip the script on us and get us just to give in to their evil agendas. #3 Warrior is Sheila saying, hi, ya peeps. Little John and Robin Hood walking through the forest. Oodale, oodale, golly, what a day. I remember that cartoon when I was a kid. Robin Hood and Little John. I thought it was a really cool cartoon. It's probably full of satanic imagery. Number 4 Warrior is Scorpion saying, I've been following Nick Fuentes for quite a while. He's a Catholic supremacist, not Christian. I believe working for the Lee family. Could be wrong, Pastor. I don't think you're far off, pal. We're going to be talking about that too. Good eye. #5 Warrior is Claire saying, hey, everyone. What's up, Claire? Jeffrey responds, and what are starseeds? I'm hearing this from some woman on TikTok. Starseeds are from the Alice Bailey satanic movement with the Lucis Trust, formerly Lucifer Trust, getting their information that from the founder, Helena Blavatsky, and the New Age philosophy that's been hitting us for the past 150 years. And so star children are supposedly, according to New Age, you're either born a star child where naturally in the element of, the universe, a sophisticated, smart, and a leader, right, is born. They call them star childs. And also those that are genetically modified or taken by aliens, they call them star children too. But yeah, star child, it's been around for a long time. Just go into the UFO community and you will meet one. Urban is here saying, hey, I was looking into this. Fuentes is a Jesuit. Temporo coadjutor. Good job, Urban. Yeah, Josh is a great researcher and He is also, at times, my producer. And Josh has his own show, Urban Odyssey. Got to check it out. Josh has a lot of followers, and he has been exposing the satanic evil in this world, and he's rocking it. Sheila says, I got you, Boots. Thank you. And says, what Urban is here too? It's been a day. Yes, it has. Robert Gerderson is here saying, hi, y'all. And Urban follows it up with, I'm putting the bet out there. 1 year, within 1 year, he will hit 3K. Me? Well, hey, all right. Maybe. Sheila says, me too, Nick, is something else. Boots replies, Sheila, all right, as Boots sparks a spleefer. And Lexi says, Lucian Grange. I've heard that name before. Why did you ring that up? And he says, is that the right name? I'm severely exhausted. Lucian Grange. I have no idea what that all is. All right, guys, let's get into the shitty, crappy, and horrible breaking news. Because it's never true. It's all lies. And I'm the horrible anchor giving you the breaking news with my shitty opinion. All right, Vance, J.D. Vance says, left-wing extremism helped to lead to Charlie Kirk's killing. Well, the mayor of Utah said it was social media. So, well, which one is it? Oh, I know. You guys, all of you who are working for the bad guys, the Orsini and Lee family. They're the ones that are orchestrating and controlling everything. I've done my research, Orsini clan. We know Domenico Napoleon Orsini is the Gray Pope for the Vatican. And what the Gray Pope does is tells what the white and black Pope do to continue what the Bank for International Settlements wants, which is the largest bank in the world. They are above the International Monetary Fund and above World Bank and above Federal Reserve and above BRICS. And every 4 months, all the world leaders, all, not just the East and the West, but all of them, meet in Basel, Switzerland, which is close to Geneva, really close to Satan's throne on earth. That's what the Bible says. And they discuss what's next on the game plan for the fallen angels that are now working in conjunction with man to give us technology so they can enslave us. Boy, that just went right into a segue. It was me. Suspect in Charlie shooting appeared to confess it was him. And turns out that he's not leftist, not rightist, but extreme far right. Apparently part of the femboys of the Nick Fuentes gangs, the Groypers, and we're going to learn all about that tonight. Venezuela's President Maduro denounces U.S. boat attack. He denounces it. Yeah, you're going to send more planes to surround our ships, little propellers to show force. In Venezuela, you are no match against China or America. And both want control of your oil, and you know it. U.S.-China reach framework deal on TikTok. Trump and Xi Jinping to speak on Friday. Yeah, they'll always reach a deal right before, and then someone will cut back. And yeah, well, this whole tariffs thing, they say, oh, Trump's winning on the tariffs thing, but really, America is doing really bad. We're not in great shape at all. Why? It's because I see it in my state. So until I see, less homeless and people who can actually afford to pay their mortgage with 2 incomes, then I'll say we're getting better. But no. It's worse than what they say. Donald Trump cornered with a list of right-wing attacks on Democrats. Who gives a shit? Washington Post columnist says she was fired over posts after Charlie Kirk's killing. I didn't do it. Best thing to do when it comes to anything that's political, which it was a political assassination, shut your mouth. Or you're going to ruin your future. That's pretty much it. And that's what they're teaching us to do. You see, this is all about teaching us to shut up and getting rid of the First and Second Amendment. And that's breaking news. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about Nick Fuentes, the Black Nobility, how they're actually in charge of this whole thing, and the Groypers. Wow, it's going to be a very interesting show.
Do you own a business? Would you like to pay next to nothing in taxes? Nelson Rockefeller quoted, "The secret to success is to own nothing but control everything." Basically, when you own something in your name, you also own the liabilities. Introducing the solution. Begin an unincorporated association and remove assets out of your name while remaining in control and management of them. An unincorporated association is a state-registered entity that you can put assets into, is member-based and not tied to your name, has a tax-exempt EIN number, and is private and not found when doing online search. Whether you receive a 1099 or K1 under your name, consider setting up your own unincorporated association and allow the association to be the owner of your assets and free yourself from the burden of personal tax liability. Our clients are saving tens of thousands of dollars on taxes every year for the rest of their lives. Book a call with us and find out how we can do the same for you.
It's true, I did. He's saving Elite Potion a heck of a lot of money because we signed up as an unincorporated association, okay? These guys are real, and we've had some members of our show sign up for it, and it really does work. All right, guys, it's going to be a long show, so tonight we're going to be talking about the Black Nobility's hand and the rise of Nick Fuentes and the Groypers. So social media is being inundated right now with this movement because of Charlie Kirk and his assassination. And they want to point the fingers, pin the blame, and we're not going to, we're going to start hearing more and more about this. So which is on purpose. Okay, that's what the elite want. They want us to talk about this movement because this helps to divide and conquer us. All right. So we got to learn about the Groypers. All right. Now, the Groypers, sometimes called the Groyper Army, are a group of alt-right, white nationalist and Christian nationalist activists led by Nick Fuentes. Now, Groypers are a loosely defined group of Fuentes' followers and fans. And after him, there is no clear second in the Groyper hierarchy. Now, here was a video that I saw, and it really made sense to me, and this is what got me to create this show. Check this out.
Notices bulges, oh whoa, I can't believe I'm saying that out loud and having to explain it, is a reference to a almost 2-decade-old meme that is not only transphobic, but it is hateful to furries as well. The meme originated on 4chan and is used like the memes on TikTok now, disparaging trans people with blue hair. The same with the various soy jacks and special Pepes, and you don't know what that is unless you know what it is. I'm telling you now. Here's a post from Big Tom Groyper, a reminder that Charlie Kirk is a bigger enemy than AOC. This was an irony-pilled shit poster, and they haven't released his internet history because it's going to show that it's directly linked to Nick Fuentes' Groypers. The Groypers are shit posters. The Groypers meme on people, quite literally having memed on Charlie Kirk during the Groyper War that Nick Fuentes started. Nick Fuentes' Groyper War playlist has Bella Chow in it. He is a shit poster. This was done as a shit post. Hey fascist, catch the combo codes. Like this was meme coded, and everybody is pointing out, yeah, meme culture is a direct funnel to the right wing. And not just the right wing, the alt-right.
So the meme culture really started around, I would say, during the Obama administration, and it grew even more under when Trump beat Hillary. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to understand what are the differences between the Groypers using Pepe the Frog and the QAnon movement of the white hats saving us, which I don't buy anymore. I bought it in the past because it was hopium. And, you know, it's been how many years now since Trump first ran, and we still have the Federal Reserve, you know? So I knew that they pushed and used what happened to the Bolsheviks when they used Operation Trust, which got the entire conservative people of Russia to lay their arms down and wait for help to come because the white hats are in control. Wink, wink. And everyone bought it, and they took control over Russia, and immediately, overnight, they became communist. So, according to Wikipedia, members of the group Groypers have attempted to introduce alt-right politics into mainstream conservatism in the United States and participated in the January 6th United States Capitol attack and the protests leading up to it. Now, I didn't know this. And they have targeted other conservative groups and individuals whose agendas they view as too moderate and insufficiently racist and nationalist. The Groyper movement has been described as white nationalist, homophobic, nativist, fascist, sexist, anti-Semitic, and an attempt to rebrand the declining alt-right movement. In fact, the Groypers and Nick Fuentes call Trump an actual leftist and all of the MAGA supporters leftists, and saying they're not doing enough to take the government back into the control of the people. And so these Groypers actually do attacks against all of the right-wing movement and the left-wing movement, not just far right and far left or other branches of it, but they attack all of it in the name of closely related to nihilism, where they believe in nothing. And they think it's funny to cause an uproar. Now, the type of people we're talking about, the Groypers that I've learned, these are this is the information. They are people who have been shunned by society, mostly called nerds, whom just stay online and are afraid to go out into the world, so they attack people online, and they hate homosexuality so much. This is what I've learned. Don't shoot the messenger. The Groypers hate homosexuality so much that they groom boys and men into becoming homosexuals for the cause. No joke. And the reason being is because they really hate feminist movements. They blame all of society's problems on women getting involved in voting, politics, etc. Now, this is a group of people that no one saw coming, that no one paid attention to, that were completely ignored, especially during the January 6th Capitol riot. And they were responsible for a majority of the people going in and raiding the Capitol. And we're just now finding all of this out. So we need to learn about who these Groypers are. Why? How did Nick Fuentes build such a huge number? We're not talking just hundreds of thousands. We're talking about millions of boys and men who believe in Nick Fuentes and follow him. And believe it or not, they are Christian. But yet, their actions say otherwise. Just my opinion. Urban says, this is Keck plus incel. See the catcher in the rye, Armageddon programming. Just like Albert Pike's letter said, unleash the nihilists and the atheists. Well, they're not atheists. They're Christian. But they are a strange group. Now, the Groyper War, there was an actual war between them and some of the right-wing political people. And there's a war that began in the fall of 2019 when Fuentes and his followers, known as Groypers, launched a social media campaign targeting Turning Point USA's Culture War College Tour, led by Charlie Kirk. This is why they're blowing up the internet right now because, well, Nick Fuentes and Charlie Kirk, according to Nick, were mortal enemies. He thinks that Kirk didn't go far enough in his work. And let me tell you this, Nick Fuentes and the Groypers hate Israel, completely hates Israel. So I can agree with that one, because anytime you mention Israel, well, soon they're going to take your passport away now if you say anything bad about Israel. But Israel is committing genocide right now, as we have learned. 117,000 have been killed in Gaza, and 65%, over half, are women, children, and senior citizens. Yep, that's Israel killing people without guns. Meaning Israel's got the guns, but the people they're killing, they don't have them. They're just bombing hospitals, bombing schools, bombing food shelters. Remember the food shelter that they bombed with 3,000 people? They're just eating, and they just one Hamas guy was hiding behind the soup, killed a bunch of women, children, seniors. So yeah, I'm against Israel and their genocide and what they're doing. I believe that the Bible says that Jesus died for our sins, and after he paid for the old covenant by his sin, the new covenant means everyone, all people worldwide are the favorite of God. We're all the Jews, all right? Because they took away the law, took away the favoritism, and made everyone Jewish, okay? Yeah, serious. That's what the New Testament is all about. So it's not just a certain select group of people. That's Old Testament. And through the Talmud and Kabbalist tradition, the Zionists, the fake white Jews from Europe, have hijacked the religion, and they're using it against the people. Be saying that God chose us to eradicate, Islam. But we found out that the Catholic Church, we've got proof that the Catholic Church created Islam in order to have a boogeyman for the end of days. Now, motivated by the firing of a Fuentes ally, this is the Groyper War, and prior conflicts, Groypers actually disrupted college events by asking proactive questions on immigration, Israel, and LGBT rights to challenge mainstream conservative figures like Kirk, Donald Trump Jr., and Ben Shapiro, whom they labeled as conservative Inc. I would agree. They are money makers. And for deviating from far-right views, from their far-right views. And so they would purposely go to Charlie Kirk, ask me anything, prove me wrong, events at colleges, and then they would line up together and then ask really difficult questions just to stir Charlie up and ruin the event. Now, the campaign gained traction after a November 2019 UCLA event with Trump Jr., when he was cut short due to Groyper heckling, exposing divisions among conservatives. And Fuentes expanded the movement with the Groyper Leadership Summit in December 2019 and the formation of America First Students in January 2020. In August of 2024, Fuentes initiated Groyper War II, a digital war campaign pressuring Donald Trump's presidential campaign to adapt further right stances using memes, trolling, and threats to withhold votes. Now, there is a rumor that's going around saying the only reason that Trump won this last presidency was the Groypers voted him in, meaning nobody saw that coming. He got extra votes out of nowhere, and it was from millions of Groypers. And in February 2021, the Groyper movement splintered between Fuentes and Patrick Casey over fears of infiltration by federal informants and doxing at the 2021 America First Political Action Conference held by Fuentes. Now, that is a person doing something correctly, knowing that the CIA, FBI, they are able to infiltrate and split up a movement. So they split up their own movement before the government got involved and would ruin it, which makes you think that it's just too good, how they were able to just gather that many millions of people as an army without any financial help. And we're going to be talking about finances here. Who was involved in financing the Groypers. Yeah. It is. It's like Groyper, yeah. And they also hijacked the Pepe the Frog from the Q movement. Didn't really hijack it. They were actually helped by the Tavistock Institute. We'll get into that later. Now, Jaden McNeil of America First Students joined in support of Fuentes' conference and accused Casey of disloyalty to Fuentes. And in May 2022, McNeil distanced himself from Fuentes in an interpersonal clash of egos, following conflict over his former position as treasurer of Fuentes' America First Foundation. They have a foundation. In September, foundation for what? All of the Groypers have that much money to keep this thing going? In September 2019, Ashley St. Clair, a brand ambassador for the conservative student group Turning Point USA, was photographed at an event featuring several allegedly white nationalists and alt-right figures, including Fuentes, Jacob Wohl, and Anthem Giannette. I don't know if you're pronouncing that right. Better known as Baked Alaska. That's their handle. Now, after Right Wing Watch brought the photographs to its attention, Turning Point USA issued a statement that said it had severed ties with St. Clair and condemned white nationalism as abhorrent and un-American, unquote. And at the 2019 Politicon convention, Fuentes tried to attend several Turning Point events featuring its founder, Charlie Kirk, including a line to take photos with Kirk and Kirk's debate with Kyle Kulinski of the Young Turks. Security repeatedly barred him from being allowed near Kirk, and Fuentes accused Kirk of suppressing him to avoid a confrontation, as Fuentes had grown critical of Kirk's positions, which he believes are just too weak. Now, in the fall of again, this is all just from Wikipedia. Okay. Now, in the fall of 2019, Kirk launched a college speaking tour with Turning Point titled "Culture War," featuring himself and guests such as Rand Paul, Donald Trump Jr., Kimberly Guilfoyle, Lara Trump, and Dan Krishna. The one-eyed dude symbolizing Lucifer. Got it. In retaliation for the firing of St. Clair and the Politicon incident, so Fuentes began organizing a social media campaign asking his followers to go to Kirk's events and ask provocative and controversial leading questions about his stances on immigration, Israel, and LGBT rights to expose Kirk as a fake conservative. Now, Kirk was approached by a reporter asking him if he would debate Nick Fuentes, and he said openly, "No, I will not," because it's too. He doesn't. He just doesn't think that Nick is serious. Thinks he's just a troll, and not really interested in the movement, but rather just interested in chaos. Now, at a Culture War event hosted by Ohio State University on October 29th, 11 out of 14 questions were actually asked by Groypers to Charlie Kirk. And their questions included, can you prove that our white European ideals will be maintained if the country is no longer made up of white European descendants? Oh my God. They asked Kirk's co-host Rob Smith, a gay black Iraq War veteran, how does anal sex help us win the culture war? Fuentes' social media campaign against Kirk became known as the Groyper Wars, and Kirk, Smith, and others at Turning Point USA, including Benny Johnson, began calling the questioners white supremacists and anti-Semites. Naturally. Now, conservative commentator Michelle Malkin wrote an article for American Greatness attacking Kirk's immigration policies, particularly his stance that immigrants who graduate from U.S. universities should receive green cards. And after defending Fuentes and his followers, Malkin was fired as a speaker for Young America's Foundation, a rival organization to Turning Point, whose events Groypers had also targeted. Now, Malkin later called herself a mother figure to and leader of the Groypers. And another Turning Point USA event, the Groypers targeting targeted was a promotional event for Donald Trump Jr.'s book called Triggered, featuring Trump, Kirk, and Guilfoyle at the University of California, Los Angeles, in November of 2019. Now, anticipating further questions from Fuentes' followers, it was announced that the event's Q&A portion would be canceled, which led to heckling and boos from the mostly pro-Trump audience. The disruptions forced the event, originally scheduled to last 2 hours, to actually end in just 30 minutes. This is order out of chaos, guys. This is chaos. Chaos is where Satan thrives, in confusion. Now, the Groyper Wars earned widespread media attention after the UCLA incident with Donald Trump Jr. Chadwick Moore of Spectator USA commented that the ordeal revealed deep divisions within the American right among young voters, particularly Generation Z. Now, Moore, M-O-O-R-E, claimed this divide is due to the Groypers' viewing of Charlie Kirk and others in the mainstream conservative movement as snatching the baton and appointing themselves the guardians of 2016 spoils, despite holding beliefs that Fuentes and his followers believe conflict with Trump's Make America Great Again agenda. Now, another Spectator, author Ben Sixsmith, claimed that Turning Point's unwillingness to respond to controversial questions and use of insults to dismiss its critics revealed the organization's hypocrisy after having promoted themselves as the debate guys. So they're trolls, okay? Trolling is just going into a conversation and just lighting a M80 and then sitting back and watch what happens. And it appears that the shooter of Charlie Kirk is a Groyper. It doesn't care anything about politics. Doesn't care anything about anything, really. He's just a nihilist. And they're starting to say that he killed just because it was funny. So other targets include Ben Shapiro, which they're going to be going after now since he's taking over Turning Point. Groypers' targets for heckling quickly expanded beyond Kirk and Turning Point USA to other mainstream conservative groups and individuals, which they sometimes collectively call Conservative Inc., which I would agree with. It's a money-making thing. Trump's working with corporations. I've told you guys this. America is a corporation. I've told you guys this. Corporations are only interested in one thing: profit. Well, the Groypers are just interested in nothing, because they think it's all funny. This is what they say. Because they have no reason, because of what they've been given from society, they have no reason to follow along in society's standards and play by the rules, because there's nothing in this corporate fascist mob world that we live in that gives anybody any freedom. You have to work your ass off on 2 jobs, including your partner with 2 jobs, just to pay for mortgage and get your kids in school. This is the typical American life. Nobody can afford to live in America anymore. And these people, these Groypers, know this. And therefore, what is the point? What are we really standing up for? So they're just going to throw what they think are grenades into events just to play around with the elites. That's what they want us to think and understand. But believe me, we'll come into this later, but the elites are the ones who created these people. Now, the Groypers' targets for heckling quickly expanded beyond Kirk, went to others, including Young American Foundation and its students' outreach branch, Young Americans for Freedom, which included such speakers as Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire and Jonah Goldberg of the Dispatch. Now, remember when I showed you the Daily Wire's, which is a news organization, but a right news organization, and they put up the difference between Kirk's death and Rodney King's death. Rodney King, yeah. Totally different. One was, everyone hugging and crying, and the other one was complete Antifa, BLM riots, which I was saying that what the Daily Wire did was they are still spawning and creating division. So I would agree with the Groypers that, yeah, the Trump in his speech is trying to continue the division between left and right. And so, hey, whoever is this dude or that dude, it doesn't matter when you have the Orsinis and the Lee family who are the real ones that are in control of this world. That's the big point here. So in December of 2019, outside a venue where a Turning Point USA event was being held, Fuentes crossed paths with Ben Shapiro, who was on his way to the event with his wife and children. Ouch. Fuentes confronted Shapiro over his past public speaking comments, and Shapiro refused to acknowledge him. Now, Fuentes faced widespread condemnation from politicians and various pundits, likely because he's disrupting their money flow, including Nikki Haley and Meghan McCain, Sebastian Gorka, Megyn Kelly, and Michael Avenatti for confronting Shapiro while he was with his family. So they're giving Nick a hard time. So it's interesting. Now, addressing the increase in attention to the far right due to the aggressive questioning of Kirk, Ben Shapiro gave a speech at Stanford University in which he attacked Fuentes, without naming him, and his followers as essentially a rebranded version of the alt-right, which I believe so. See, this world is made to divide and conquer. That's what the elites have been doing for thousands of years, okay? Even the Bible talks about it pre-flood. In addressing the increase in attention to the far right due to the aggressive questioning of Kirk, Ben Shapiro gave a speech at Stanford University in which he attacked Fuentes without naming him. So essentially rebranding a version of the alt-right. So Groyper Leadership Conference, again, we're reading Wikipedia here. Now, in December 2019, Fuentes held the Groyper Leadership Summit in Florida. A small group attended in person, and others joined via live stream. And the event was held at the same time and in the same city as Turning Point USA's Student Action Summit. Groypers argued with SAS attendees outside their venue, and Fuentes, Patrick Casey, and some Groypers were removed from the SAS venue after attempting to enter it. Now, at the Groyper Leadership Summit, Fuentes, Casey, and former InfoWars contributor Jake Lloyd, whom I believe InfoWars is definitely Mossad, contributor Jake Lloyd spoke about the Groypers' strategy and ideology. And in January 2020, Groyper and former leader of Kansas State University's Turning Point USA chapter, Jaden McNeil, formed the Kansas State University organization called America First Students. Now, the group, which shares a name with Fuentes' America First podcast, was conceived at the Groyper Leadership Summit, and Groyper leaders have helped to promote it. Now, the America First Students organization, which says it formed in defense of Christian values, strong families, and closed borders, and the American worker, is considered to promote the Groyper movement. Now, in February 2020, Fuentes spoke at several events held as rival events to the Conservative Political Action Conference, one of these hosted by the online publication National File, featuring Fuentes, Alex Jones of InfoWars, and Proud Boys founder Gavin McInnes, which I believe, or McInnes, I believe they're all part of the divide and conquer strategy. And Fuentes hosted the first annual America First Political Action Conference, which included such speakers as Patrick Casey, former Daily Caller author Scott Greer, and Malkin. Where are they getting all this money? That's what I want to know. Where are the Groypers getting their money to go to these events, fly there, if some have to, and do what they do best? Where are they getting the money to continue pushing Nick Fuentes and his movement? Well, same thing with Milo. He's coming back on the scene. Where's he getting his money? Who's funding these people? You see, there seems to be a shift going on to attack the right and attack the left at the same time. And this is the strategy of, hey, you're all watching. I don't know how there's 225 people here today, but just so you know, I am a pastor, and I view things from the King James Version, which I know has been tampered with, and also the Ethiopian canon, which I believe is the true and only surviving gospel left of the 88 books versus the 66 books that they gave us, which is a skeleton of the truth, but the Ethiopian canon gives us the truth. And I'm trying to tell everyone about the difference between left, right, what Groypers are, and how to understand why the Groypers movement is now making mainstream media. So this has been through funding, and it's been through money. And that's the thing that nobody is realizing and understanding, that Nick Fuentes and his platform can't get there unless he's got millions of bucks to push it, okay? Pushing it. No, it's not grassroots. And no, it's not viral. He is being paid by some entity, and we'll be talking about who that entity might be as we talk about the actual real rulers of the world, which are the Orsini clan and the Lee clan, and we'll explain who they are later. Now, the January 6th United States Capitol attack, one thing that everyone's going to start learning now is that the Groypers were involved. You see, Groypers were present at the January 6th United States Capitol attack and prominent among those who participated in the early waves of the attack Capitol. And again, I'm reading this from Wikipedia. We're going to read more as we go. Exact numbers are not known, but several were arrested. In February 2021, the Anti-Defamation League, whom if your name gets on their list, you are definitely someone who cares about people and cares about the lives of women, children, and I am a pastor who do not support Israel, because my belief is Jesus paid for all the sins. That's all done. And now all of God's favorite people are the Gentiles, which the Gentiles are the entire world, not just a group of people. So I don't believe in that. And I don't believe in what Israel's doing, because I've done the numbers. You can look back at my previous shows. 117,000 have been killed in Gaza. And those are the lowest numbers we can get from the reports. We're not even talking about the people under the rubble. And out of the 117,000 people, 65%, almost 70% of them were women, children, and senior citizens. Wow. That's not war. War is supposed to kill the soldiers, okay? War isn't blowing up hospitals and schools and other buildings in the name of, well, there was a couple Hamas people in there. Well, I've told you guys many, many times that the actual Navy SEALs can easily creep in undisclosed and take out 2 Hamas people in a hospital if they wanted to. And we know that Israel has their own form of Navy SEALs, but they don't do it, because what they're doing is they're killing people because they're murderers. Israel is a horrible, horrible country. And Christians need to wake up and understand that they got to stop supporting genocide, because that's not what Jesus would call for, period. Now, so as we learned, the Groypers were involved in the January 6th United States Capitol attack. And exact numbers are not known about how many were there, but several were arrested. And according to the Anti-Defamation League, they identified 10 Groypers or related white supremacists involved in the riots. Now, Fuentes and Casey were on the Capitol steps and celebrated the temporary disruption of Congress, which I've seen. I had a buddy. He was on Facebook Live. My friend, who is in my industry, which I'm in the email marketing and email cleaning industry, my friend, who is still in prison from going there, he filmed the entire thing. They all walked through the Capitol building, and there were no guns, there were nothing. He walked in, and then they walked out, and we were all watching it, and there was nobody hurting each other. Nobody was stealing anything, at least from what I saw, okay? And then he gets out, and he's like, hey, we did it. We stormed the castle, and nothing happened. Yet we get inundated by the news that there was a horrible event. People died, etc. So something's not adding up there, right? Because from my own eyes saw it. I saw him on Facebook Live, and now he's in jail, and he still hasn't been represented. Yeah. So that's interesting. How come we don't talk about people like that? Now, Fuentes and Casey were on the Capitol steps, and they celebrated the temporary disruption of Congress, but they have not been charged. Why not? Both were subpoenaed by the United States House Select Committee on the January 6th attack in January 2022 for their role in planning the attack. So, yeah, they got subpoenaed, but they never got caught or went to jail. So they're being backed and supported by someone. Who is that someone? I believe it's either Trump or Israel, one or the other. Trump, I've told you guys, from New York is under the Orsini clan or the Federal Reserve or the International Monetary Fund World Bank system that's against the Lee family, which the Lee family has been given permission by the Breakspear family to take control over their breath, meaning the spirits of all the people they killed. And therefore, the Lee family are the competing role against the West. And they are the ones who came up with BRICS. And the more people you die, the more powerful your bank becomes. And BRICS is starting to climb because I believe that China itself has killed at least 1 billion of their own people to gain traction on the Orsini family. But what do I know? I'm just a researcher and journalist. Well, independent, and yeah, I'm an amateur, but I'm a damn good investigator, and this is the information I've uncovered. So these guys, especially Fuentes, on the Capitol steps, they didn't go to jail. They just got subpoenaed, and nothing happened after to them. But they continued to get a platform. How come they get a platform, and people like me get shut off of TikTok when I, played Stripes, and then for Charlie Kirk and his death, because what I say is an American died, not just a political figure, not just a person that has an opinion, but an American died, and an American was shot in front of Americans, and I think that's tragic and sad. Okay, because Americans should look at each other and love each other, not hate each other, because something's dividing us, and I'm telling you who it is. It's the corporations, it's the crown who has owned America since 1871 when we became a corporation or a company, and Washington, D.C. became the little entity that controls both Canada and America. But what do I know? I'm just a researcher. Now, there are key figures and legal outcomes when it comes to them. And soon we're going to get to the Black Nobility, and soon we're going to get to the Orsinis and the Lee families and the Breakspears. I will tell you all about them and what they're all about. Now, Riley June Williams of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, was accused of invading Nancy Pelosi's office and stealing her laptop and gavel, and of generally accelerating the attack. Now, she was tried and found guilty of 6 charges, including a felony count of civil disorder. And on March 23rd, 2023, Williams was sentenced to 3 years in prison with 3 years of probation and then fined. But, Fuentes just got subpoenaed and nothing happened. Christian Secor of Costa Mesa, California, was at the Capitol where he allegedly flew the Groypers flag. Now, he was convinced of obstruction of an official proceeding, civil disorder, assault, and resisting arrest, and sentenced to 42 months in prison. Now, Joseph Brody of Springfield, Virginia, and 4 others acted as a group that assisted the mob in using a metal barricade against a U.S. Capitol police officer, knocking the officer back as he attempted to secure the north door. Well, he was convicted of assault and assaulting a police officer, resisting or impeding law enforcement officers, causing bodily injury, interfering with a law enforcement officer during a civil disorder, and obstruction of an official proceeding. Well, it looks like these Groypers had their plan in trying to push rage at the Capitol, but Fuentes, who brought them there, he got subpoenaed, but nothing ever happened to him. David Dempsey of Los Angeles, California, received a 20-year sentence for attacking several law enforcement officers at January 6th. This was the second longest sentence for any of those involved in the insurrection. Before sentencing, Dempsey apologized to the police officers in the courtroom, saying he had a profound sense of regret, but as he was led out of the room, after sentencing, he made a hand sign associated with the Groyper movement. And again, we're talking about the Groyper movement because etched in the bullet of the bullet that supposedly assassinated Charlie Kirk, there was a meme sentence or a Groyper saying, and basically saying, hey, it's not the left, it's not the right. It's a complete different organization that's nihilist, that doesn't give a shit about anything or politics, etc. And so that's why the media can't figure out who to pin the blame for this one. And this is why we're in a social disarray, because we don't understand what's going on in our country. Well, I can tell you that's how they sow division on purpose. It's order out of chaos, just like the Freemasons and the Illuminati and the gangs of people from and appointed by the Jesuits, who are the Society of Jesus, who make all the plans for the West and how to control the people. And on top of that, don't forget about the Bank for International Settlements, where every 4 months, all the world leaders, including China, Russia, and America, and all the other ones who are acting like they're fighting each other, they actually meet at the Bank for International Settlements to get their orders straight from some source. Well, who that source is, hey, I could tell you it's either the devil, or I could tell you it's archons or whatever. You have to find out for yourself. Me, I have to look at it from a Christian lens point of view, because I'm just after the truth from a Jesus point of view, because I believe what Jesus did was a beautiful thing, and nobody can, disagree with how he said things, because he was a nice guy and he got killed for nothing, in my opinion. So Thomas Carey of Pittsburgh, Ohio, Gabriel Chase of Gainesville, Florida, John Lizak of Cold Spring Harbor, New York, and Paul Ewald Lovely of Hallenthorpe, Maryland, all pleaded guilty to demonstrating in the Capitol building, and were each fined $500. So we go on and on and on about this Wikipedia. I have so much more, but I only have like another 40 minutes to talk here. But they even came in and they attacked Kanye West, and they attacked who else? Some AFPAC speaker, etc. So, are the Groypers bad or good? I believe that when we get involved in a movement, we need to really do our homework and find out who is in charge and where are they getting their money from. Now, I remember in Oregon, because I've been here all my life. I remember during the COVID scare, and we were getting ready to protest on the Capitol, and I met a bunch of people who wanted to start a militia in Oregon. And so I was interested and wanted to find out more about the militia, and some of the leaders got a hold of me and said, okay, well, you're a great researcher and investigator. Can you do some investigative work on all the leaders of this supposed militia that we're putting together? And so I said, sure. And the guy who was sponsoring the whole thing and putting it all together he called himself an ex-Nazi, and that kind of threw me off. And then I found out all kinds of things of how, his belief system and white supremacy actually takes back all of the, or it negated what we were trying to achieve, which was build a militia to, not enforce, but to show up and get the Capitol in Salem of Oregon to stop favoring corporate and start giving the money to the people. But I had to pull back because I just couldn't trust what I was seeing. Aussie Patriot says, I'm no Christian, but I believe we can follow whomever we seek comfort. I wouldn't trust a Freemason nor their King James Bible. Well, Freemasonry, when you get in the beginning, they show you two Bibles. They show you the Quran and they show you the Bible. And they say, hey, you can't come in here unless you have a belief system. Now, you can go back into all of my other 350 videos that I've created, and you can literally download all the information that I've done about Freemasonry, the Illuminati, Albert Pike, Adam Weishaupt, Helena Blavatsky, Alice Bailey, and how they all have been working together to form what's called a new world order, just like George Bush said in the end of his speech. So what does the Groypers have to do with Q, the QAnon movement, and Pepe the Frog? Well, I did research about Q, and my research indicate we found out who Q was, which was Dennis Liam Toohey, a gym owner in London called Too Tough Fitness. And he was Craig Oxley, who formed a group of people in America that exposed all the information about the Vatican that nobody ever knew. Okay, so exposed their evil. But he was paid by the Tavistock Institute, and from that money, he opened up his own gym. And then he was paid again to go back, and it was a gym for schizophrenics. He was paid to go back on 4chan and actually start the Q movement by Tavistock Institute to keep the right and keep their to put their guns down, just like Project Trust in Russia, and not rebel against what's coming. This is what happened. So, be as it may, Dennis Liam Toohey was Q. I found the information, and you can go look up on my website, jamescarner.com. You can follow all that information, and you can find out that, hey, Q was actually made by the Tavistock Institute, and they are masters at social media manipulation. So there you have it. Now, Pepe the Frog, okay, remember we started seeing that during the Q movement. All right, originally came from Matt Fury's Comic Boys Club in 2005. And by the 2010s, internet boards like 4chan had adopted Pepe as a kind of blank canvas. And out of that chaos, and again, we'll talk about the Black Nobility here coming soon. But we got to find out, what does the Groypers have to do with Pepe the Frog, right? Now, out of the chaos, different factions began weaponizing Pepe, the alt-right conspiracy communities, and later Q-aligned groups. And Pepe became the meme that could mean anything. That flexibility made it perfect for Tavistock-style psychological operations because it allowed multiple movements to project their identity into a single image. Now, when the Q movement rose after 2017, Pepe was actually everywhere. And patriots, digital soldiers, and meme warriors rallied all around it. And yes, I'm right that Tavistock Institute and its network have long been experts in cultural engineering. Nobody's even heard of the Tavistock Institute. Now, the sudden global spread of Pepe across both left and right is too clean to be organic. It functioned like a sigil, emotionally charged, and again, sigils are demon attachments to symbols. Emotionally charged, endlessly replicated, and capable of uniting scattered people all around a subconscious symbol. Now, the Groypers took this further, okay? So Pepe was before their time, but they took it and they used it for their own gain. And they didn't just use Pepe, they actually mutated him. Their mascot, the smug frog with folded hands, I think he's doing this, is a parody of Pepe made more exclusive. And by reclining smugly, it signals insider superiority. And something like, we're not just normie Pepe, we're the hidden elite Pepe. Now, I've told you Pepe the Frog is somehow connected to Pepe the Orsini Grey Pope, who is Domenico Napoleon Orsini. His nickname is Pepe. And I do believe Pepe the Frog is his little joke, as it's funny to make fun of us because, you know, we're just frogs to him. And it is a end times kind of eschatology thing to view frogs in the end of times because frogs are talked about that are going to come out of the pit. I don't know why, I don't know where, but there has to be some connection to this. Now, by creating, and we're back to Pepe and the Groypers, by creating their own variant, they could steal Q's meme energy and redirect it towards their controlled opposition youth movement. Now, Pepe was seeded as a Tavistock psychological sigil, made to be stolen, remixed, and ritualized. You can look all this stuff up in my bibliography and my endnotes. And the Q movement popularized Pepe as on a mass scale, especially trying it or tying it to Patriots versus the Cabal. Now, the Groypers hijacked Pepe by morphing him into a smug recliner, claiming their version was the true insider frog. Now, that means both Q and the Groypers were drawing water from the same poisoned well, from the Tavistock Institute. And again, Tavistock Institute works with DARPA. And I've been trying to expose bots on my show, but I keep getting shut down on TikTok. But we have a show called Bot or Not. And Bot or Not exposes the DARPA bots that are there to get you angry and mad at your neighbors, to hate the left and hate the right. Because that's how they win, divide and conquer. Now, one movement targeted older patriots with hope of trusting the plan. That fell apart. And the other targeted disillusioned young men with irony, misogyny, and false Christian nationalism. That's Nick Fuentes. Now, two demographics, two altars, but the same Tavistock architect kept pulling the strings. All right, here we come into the real information. Now, every empire writes its plays in blood. A man falls, another rises, and behind it, all the same hands hold the pen. Now, Charlie Kirk is dead, shot down in the middle of his fight for gun rights, and almost instantly a new name is carried on the wind, Nick Fuentes, out of the blue. And his followers call themselves Groypers, a smug frog for a banner, memes for armor, and a counterfeit cross raised high. Now, to the untrained eye, it looks like a spontaneous surge of grassroots rebellion. But nothing in history happens this cleanly. Do you guys understand this? Nothing happens this clean. Not without money backing it up. Now, when death and replacement appear in sequence, when obscurity becomes spotlight overnight, when money appears from nowhere, you are watching choreography. You are watching a ritual. Now, this is the signature of the Black Nobility. I've talked about them, the 13 Black Nobility families of Europe. It started with 4 from Austria, and they sprouted out into 13. And there are, we're talking about the Breakspear family, the Orsini, the Aldobrandinis. There's tons of them. You can go to my website and find their information. Now, the Lee family. Well, let's go back. This is the signature of the Black Nobility. One house pulls the trigger, right? Because I'm saying that both are involved in the Charlie Kirk event. One house pulls the trigger. Another writes the liturgy. Now, the Lee family, who has the blessing of the Breakspears. The Breakspears were the ones who controlled the entire Europe during the Dark Ages. Now, and they lost to the Orsinis 250 years ago. Now, the Lee family, with its centuries of bloodline ties to intelligence, banking, and assassinations, they open the vacuum with violence. And the Orsini, Rome's shadow priests, they step in with the replacement. A hollow faith that twists Christ into a weapon, mocks women, grooms boys, and calls it Christian nationalism. You see, I don't. Something's wrong here by grooming boys. Now, it is the same cycle that the elites have run for centuries, meaning you can pin this back to the Greeks. Luther against Rome, Bolsheviks against the Tsars, fascists against communists, always 2 puppets dancing while the strings led to the same hand. Now, the Groypers are not an accident. They are a phalanx, ancient in design, disciplined, meme-forged soldiers, trained to overwhelm by number, but not in truth. They are a Trojan horse, smiling and ironic, smuggling poison into the heart of conservatism. They are sophists, ambushing their own allies with clever rhetoric, destabilizing from within. So this is nothing new. It's the oldest script of war, and nobody's paying attention to it. Now, Charlie Kirk's blood, this isn't the end of it. It is the opening act of a ritual replacement. In comes, guess who? Ben Shapiro, supporting Israel while they kill people in Gaza. The elites have taken the tragedy, weaponized the grief, and offered the world a false altar. Nick Fuentes as the vessel, the Groypers as the choir. But remember, their altars cannot stand. False Christs always collapse before the true king. And what we are witnessing and watching is not a movement of God, but a play from Belial. Now, the Ethiopian canon tells us who the devil is, his name, and what they call him. His name is Belial. And Belial is also associated with Baal and Moloch. These have been the gods that your corporations and your countries and all of your leaders have been worshiping for thousands of years. Now, what we are watching is not a movement of God, right? But it's a shadow of Belial, a counterfeit army, a revival written in the ink of Rome and the blood of America. And while we continue to see, death in front, meaning all children now have seen it. Many Christian homes are trying to explain to their kids what they've seen on the internet. The entire social media platform has opened up and allowed Charlie Kirk's blood to be witnessed, meaning TikTok hasn't shut it down for, obscenity or, vile, too scary to watch imagery. No, it's everywhere. You can download it, send it, everyone's sharing it because they're in control of it. They want us to be in fear. They are trying to tell us, shut up, just like we're going to shut up Charlie Kirk. We're going to shut you up as well. So the warning here, folks, is clear, in my opinion. If you let them guide your sons, your own children, If you let them shape the next generation, which the next generation coming, it's going to be an androgynous society with no values at all. Nihilists who care about nothing. They will harvest not just politics, but souls. Now, the story begins here with a gunshot, a public, deliberate strike, and Charlie Kirk, a man who built his career on defending the Second Amendment, was silenced by the very weapon he championed. And the irony is cruel, almost theatrical. And I think this is the point. The Black Nobility do not simply kill, they stage. Every removal a performance, a signal, and a ritual. Remember, they're Belial worshipers, Satan worshipers, Lucifer worshipers, Moloch worshipers, Baal worshipers. They have a lot of names for their fallen angel who, well, they think got the bad rap from God. Now, the killing of Kirk was more than a crime. It was an initiation of sequence. And this is something that the Freemasons talk about all the time, especially Albert Pike. Sequence. A ritual of sequence. And it's the opening act of a carefully timed replacement, meaning they follow the stars and the charts, and they do this on certain times where they can steal the breath from all of us. So you see, the devil is here to take our breath away. And I've told you guys about this before, about how God created Adam with his hands, and then he breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And the Ethiopian canon follows up with it that Adam was written in the book of life. Therefore, that takes the whole toll booth Jesus thing away from us. Remember, I'm not interested in Christianity where you have to earn your way to heaven. I'm interested in just a loving God who cares about his kids and will intervene when we need him the most. But poor Charlie Kirk. The Black Nobility, they just don't kill, they stage events. And every removal is a performance, a signal, a ritual. Now, the killing of Kirk was more than a crime. It was an initiation sequence. Now, look closely at the details. This is a carefully timed replacement here. Kirk was not a faceless bureaucrat. He was the face of Turning Point USA, a voice for young conservatives, a gatekeeper of mainstream populism. You see, he defended Israel, which 2 weeks before he was shot, he was stopping that. He protected the Republican establishment's alliances, and he steered restless young men away from dangerous waters. That's what he was trying to achieve. And they made him a liability to those who wanted the dam to break. And so he was cut down. Now, the question is not only who pulled the trigger, but who benefited from it. See, that's what I'm interested in. This show is called Cause Before Symptom. I'm not interested in the symptom, and I make cancer as an observation. Nobody knows what causes cancer, but boy, all we do is talk about the symptoms, and that's wrong. We need to push what is the cause. That's what my show is all about. Now, the question here, within hours, the headlines actually shifted after Kirk was shot. And no longer just a tragedy, the narrative began to pivot. Who will take Kirk's place? Who speaks for the young right now? And again, I'm not left or I'm not right, okay? I'm not anything. I'm against politics because politics means, and if you look it up in the dictionary, it says to control a group of people. I'm not interested in controlling people. I'm interested in just loving my neighbor. You know, the last commandment that Jesus gave all of us, it's above all. Just love God first and then love your neighbor the same. Can you do at least that? Most can't. And then all of a sudden, like a vacuum, the name Nick Fuentes just began to surface. And a man barely known outside the darker corners of the internet suddenly framed as the new heir apparent. Now, that timing is not natural. It's not. It is an orchestration. And history shows us this pattern again and again and again and again and again. Now, I'm not saying that Nick is going to replace Turning Point. We know it's going to be Ben Shapiro. But Nick is the new voice for those who are pissed off at the system. And it's a controlled opposition. It's going to get people hope, and then they're going to run with it for many years, and then they're just going to fall by the wayside again because they got tricked. Now, history shows us this pattern over and over again. Leaders are removed, but not merely to silence them, but to open space for the chosen replacement. And Nick speaks of it completely. Now, it was true when the Black Nobility engineered the deaths of monarchs and installed pawns. It was true when they stoked assassinations in America to rewire policy and allegiance. And it is true now in the murder of Charlie Kirk, that his death is the key that unlocked the door for Fuentes' rise. And if the removal feels shocking, well, it's meant to. Theatrics burn themselves into the public mind. A conservative giant killed while defending guns ensures endless debate, endless polarization, endless division. While the masses argue over guns and politics, the true replacement slides quietly into place and steers us all again in the wrong freaking direction. Now, what looks like a tragedy is also a ritual. What looks like coincidence is choreography. The assassination of Charlie Kirk was not random violence. It was the opening move in a much older game. A game written in blood and carried out by the hands that have never left the stage of history. We're talking about old dynasties that have controlled the world for thousands of years. Now, the ink was barely dry on the news of Charlie Kirk's death when another name began to move across headlines, podcasts, and social media streams. Nick Fuentes. To the average American, the name meant nothing. He was not a household figure, not a politician, not a celebrity pastor. He was a live streamer, a provocateur, a voice on the fringes, and yet almost instantly his name was being repeated in the same breath as Future Youth Movement. So that does not happen by accident. He's being backed by numbers. Nick Fuentes' rise was never organic either. His America First brand was not built by slow credibility or honest persuasion. It was crafted in the crucible of internet subcultures. He thrived on memes, trolling, and shock value, calling himself a Christian nationalist while mocking women, laughing at suffering, and dressing hatred as irony. Alone, such figures rarely leave the shadows, but with money, amplification, and coordinated promotion, shadows become the spotlight. Let me take a step back here. You guys don't understand your enemy. Your enemy is Satan, Belial, Moloch, Baal, the gods that want sacrifice, the God that wants your babies killed, okay? Nick Fuentes hates women. So do the Black Nobility. In fact, they hate women so much, they dress themselves up as women to play the part of the wife so that they can keep their control out of women's hands. The Black Nobility are homosexual. They do this to keep the control out of women's hands because if you read the Talmud, if you understand the Kabbalist nature and what they're trying to achieve the world of Lucifer where it's just men in control following the fallen angels, and the workers will be androgynous, sexless drones, people who cannot use sex to persuade anything, to get or gain any power. Eunuchs. It's all religion. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to pin us together so we can fight against each other because Albert Pike said it. He said it in his letter to Giuseppe that everyone denies now, which 40 years ago, it was in the National Archives in Britain. Not anymore. They say it isn't real. But Albert Pike said he predicted the First World War, the Second World War, and the Third World War, which the Third World War states that they're going to pin Islam against Christianity and Judaism. Well, just looks like the UK is being controlled now by Muslims. That's what they're doing. And believe me, when UK gets taken out by the Muslims, well, the Christians and Judaism, well, they've got to defend against that. And they're going to pin it against each other to create a World War III holy war to get everyone so tired of religion that they'll just give in to the beast system. And we've talked about the beast system many, many, many times. Now, notice the precision of the timing with Nick coming in out of the blue. Kirk's sudden absence created a vacuum among conservative youth. The establishment's frontman was gone, and within hours, Fuentes and his Groypers were cast as the rebellious alternative. Where Kirk was pro-Israel, Fuentes was critical, hates him. Where Kirk welcomed women into the fold, Fuentes sneered. Where Kirk tried to walk a line between populism and party loyalty, Fuentes spat on both. He spat on them. And he was presented not as an outsider, but as the only true insider of young conservative frustration. And this is the dialectic at work to create the wound, then offer the counterfeit healer. Now, the Groypers themselves became the proof of this momentum. Online mobs flooded timelines, event halls, and comment sections. Suddenly, Fuentes' once fringe army looked like a tidal wave of angry youth. There are no coincidences in religion. There are no coincidences in power. We are being set up again with a whole new alternative just to point us into war. But beneath the surface, coordination was clear. Paid infrastructure, live stream platforms kept alive despite bans, travel, and staging at events. None of this comes free. These are not the tools of a broke 20-something. They are the fingerprints of backing, money. And so the narrative was written. Kirk silenced, Fuentes elevated. And the torch supposedly passed, though not by the will or merit, but by the ritual blood and media manipulation. Well, who controls the media? Well, both the Lee and Orsini clans. Fuentes was dangerous enough to actually destabilize this entire thing. But remember, destabilization is the goal. You see, the Orsini and Lee families do not want truth to rise. That's why my show is always very small, and we only have, 2.1 thousand subscribers? Because the information that I bring it exposes evil and gets to the heart of the truth. Even though I don't get the exact correct information all the time, but I continue to change and repent from what I thought was the truth, and then I change it to the truth. You see, I grow as I change, and I change as I grow. And I don't just stick to one thing, old religious doctrine. My job is to make sure that people get well-informed sources, bibliography, endnotes, because I just don't want to come onto a platform and be guessing, because that's not what I'm interested in. All I care about is the truth. I don't care about all of the symptoms from the lies that we get from every single government, corporation, leader, politician, CEO, etc. All of them. They hate our guts, yet they need us to profit. If there really is 996 people on here, if you guys are getting anything from this, just one little inkling of, something that you heard that you kind of enjoyed, do me a favor, hit the X button, then hit a thumbs up, and then go back and hit the live chat again. I promise you won't lose your spot. You see, Rumble, they don't judge me based on my subscribers. They judge me based on how many thumbs up I get. And so the algorithm hates my guts. But if there really is 1,000 people watching this show, which I highly doubt, the least you could do is give me a thumbs up. So deep stabilization is the goal. Orsini and Lee family, they don't want the truth to rise. Now, in my investigative work, I have found out that the Breakspear family was kicked out of Europe because, the Orsinis took over. They gathered in, they did the breaking of the spears ritual, and the Orsini proved that their philosopher's stone was stronger than theirs when they did the breaking of the stone ritual. And then they had to give the Spear of Longinus to the Orsini family, and then they left in shame. Now, the Breakspear family, they ruled in secret, silence, but they merged with the Dent family, and then moved to China and created the opium trade. And then they slowly started to gain power back. And now they're back. And now they own 30% of all currencies worldwide through the BRICS system. And they're catching up quick to where it's going to be 50-50 within the next 10 years, where the Federal Reserve and BRICS will be even. What happens then? Well, that can't happen for the Orsini clan because they've only been in control for 250 years. They have got to stop the Lee family. The Lee family was given the blessing by the Dents, by the Breakspears, old Black Nobility breath. When I say breath, they steal the breath from us. They take our breath away, and they actually use that against us. Now, it's another story. I don't want to go into it, but you can check it out how the old temples actually were designed to steal our spirit, the spark of life. And the spark of life actually gives them power. And witches, warlocks, and Aleister Crowley, and Alice Bailey, Helena Blavatsky, they all knew this because of all of the thousands of books I've done research on, the esoteric. All of them are after one thing, the breath that was given to us by God. Now back to Nick Fuentes. He did not rise. He was raised, lifted on a stage, prepared long before Kirk's death, timed to perfection, and funded by hands older than America itself. Black Nobilities. And the world is not watching the rise of a grassroots leader. No, he's too polished and perfect. It is watching the unveiling of a puppet because that's how they do it. Now, the Groypers present themselves as a joke. They say, we're just kidding. A frog meme. Well, is shooting Charlie Kirk a joke? No. A frog meme reclining smugly, a parody of a better-known Pepe. But behind the smirk lies a strategy that's as old as war itself. They are not random trolls. They are soldiers trained to move as one. And the ancient Greeks called it the phalanx, Phalanx, which are rows of men, shields locked, advancing shoulder to shoulder until the enemy broke. One soldier alone was weak. Together, they were unstoppable. And the Groypers have taken that blueprint and translated it into the digital battlefield. Now, watch them in action. At a Turning Point USA event, a single odd question might be ignored. But when dozens of Groypers line up, each with rehearsed gotcha lines, the stage collapses. They think it's funny. That's not what a Christian does. No. The speaker is forced off balance. The audience grows restless. And the event is remembered not for its message, but for the disruption. And online, the tactic is identical. One meme, one insult, one hashtag fades quickly. But when hundreds strike at once, brigading comment sections, swarming timelines, flooding hashtags, well, the illusion of overwhelming support is created. And this is digital phalanx warfare. And it wouldn't surprise me if DARPA was there with their bots and computers to basically give the appearance that they have more people. So there you have it. It's a Trojan horse. The Groypers wrap themselves in humor, irony, just asking questions. And they appear harmless, even silly, while smuggling their ideology into spaces where it would otherwise be rejected. And there are a bunch of people who are so tired of government, so tired of states, so tired of their counties and cities that have robbed from them and kept them from the American dream that they just give in to the lie. And there are think tanks working for the Black Nobilities that all they do is think about control mechanisms. And don't get me started on MK Ultra. Don't get me started on cell phones and cell phone towers and the proof that I have found where they can manipulate our thoughts through those weapon systems. But inside is actual poison, guys. Anti-Semitism, misogyny, grooming culture, and the mocking of Christ himself. And once the horse is pulled into the gates of mainstream conservatism, well, it's going to be too late. And then there is the sophisticated part of this. The ancient sophists, through sophistry, trained young men in the art of verbal ambush. Not truth, but victory. You see, they can make the weaker argument appear stronger, twist language until reason bent. Now, the Groypers do the exact same thing. They train for rhetorical traps, not dialogue. And they weaponize questions not to seek answers, but to humiliate. And their victories are not in persuasion, but in destabilization. The same way sophists undermined the agora to weaken authority. Ancient Greece, all over again. Taken together, these tactics reveal something undeniable. The Groypers are not an accident of internet culture. They are the digital heirs of ancient war strategies. They fight as a phalanx. Don't hate me, I'm just a messenger. And none of this came naturally. These tactics require training, coordination, and funding. You see, all the world's a stage. We're just watching a movie. A movie paid by the black nobilities. And they are being shaped deliberately, groomed for battle, not of truth, but of confusion. And that's where Satan loves to dwell. The ancients perfected these strategies for conquering cities. Well, the black nobility, they've now applied them for conquering minds. Because that's where the stage is right now. Information warfare against your thought process. You see, the people who are in charge, they don't want you to think. They want to make the decisions for you. Just like they say, depopulation is a good thing. Bill Gates openly said it. We're going to use vaccines to lower the numbers of these growing populations that we just don't have enough food. And I was, what a humanitarian. No, he said we're going to kill people. And at the core of the Groyper movement lies a sickness that betrays its true spirit. They speak of Christian nationalism, but their treatment of women exposes them. There's no love for your neighbor there. And Nick Fuentes has made no secret of his contempt. He says he's celibate. He doesn't have sex with anybody. And he uses that, as his power of God to keep his mind set, right? Well, all the stuff that Jim Carrey was talking about, 33 vertebrae, 33 this, 33 that. Don't spill the seed and then you become Jesus or Christ-like. That's all satanic. Nick Fuentes is satanic. As he mocks women as irrational, unfit for politics, and even ridiculing marriage as weakness. Quoting Paul. His followers echo him, exalting celibacy, but not as devotion to God, but as a sneer at creation itself. It's not purity they celebrate, but bitterness. And bitterness always turns against the image bearers of God. But it doesn't stop at disdain. The Groypers cultivate a culture of grooming, not of daughters, but of sons. This is where the evil comes in. Online, in streams and chat rooms, they elevate the femboy, a feminized version of the young male, idolized through irony and degradation. And what begins as humor slips into practice. Effeminate behavior is encouraged, gender inversion is paraded, and submission becomes initiation. That's not accident. That's a ritual. It's satanic to groom someone. It's not satanic if you're born gay. Now, the ancients knew this pattern well. Oh, and by the way, people are born gay because there's many studies that prove that glyphosate screws with our DNA. And, well, go do your own research. And we all eat glyphosate. In the Dionysian mysteries, men dress as women. Same during the Renaissance. Their roles shattered, their bodies desecrated in the name of ecstasy. And gender inversion, it wasn't entertainment, it was worship. The mocking of God's design as an offering to darker powers. And these were evil people doing it on purpose. Not just people who are gay, but people who were mocking God on purpose to mock God, not to be one in society. There's a big difference. And what the Groypers call memes are the same practices of the old. The breaking of the masculine spirit, the mocking of the feminine, and the corruption of youth. Can't we all just get along? Come together? Chad Force says, wait, humans aren't Roundup ready? No, dude. That was funny. Notice the contradiction here. They rail against feminism, which I think men and women are equal. That's just how I think. And I think women contribute a heck of a lot to society, and I would love to see a woman president. And I'm a Christian pastor. I think women are wonderful. Now, I don't want a woman that works for the Zionists, which are the fake white Jews of Europe who hijacked Judaism and wrote the Kabbalist Talmud to marry 3-year-olds. And the rabbis would, and this is in the Talmud, I've exposed it on my show, the rabbis were arguing, well, how much do you pay for a 3-year-old for a priest? Is it more if they've been wood penetrated, or is it less? That's the Talmud. That's evil. That's the black nobility. And they follow the Talmud, and they say that they're actual Kabbalists, but really behind the scenes, they're Zoroastrianists. Because Zoroastrianism is going to be the final religion as they find the final piece that pieces all the religions together, because Zoroastrianism was the first religion to hit the earth after the flood. That's another story. Now notice the contradiction with the Groypers. They rail against feminism, they mock women, until no woman is welcome in their ranks. And they preach about strength, yet they celebrate weakness by feminizing boys. They claim to honor God, but they spit on his order. This is the Orsini fingerprint, folks. The Orsini clan. The Dukes. False Christianity inverted into parody. And just as the Jesuits once twisted scripture to justify conquest, the Groypers twist faith into a weapon against itself. And the grooming serves a purpose here. Young men who are broken, humiliated, and made effeminate become malleable, easy to manipulate and control. They no longer stand on their own, no longer protect family or community, but collapse into the movement. And a soldier who has lost his identity becomes a vessel for the cause, easily directed, easily sacrificed. The Groypers do not build men, they manufacture slaves. That's the fingerprint, again, of the Orsinis. Remember, this show is called Cause Before Symptom. This is not a revival. This is not faith. It is the same old pagan cult reborn in digital form, dressed in irony, masked in humor. Remember, Satan is the Joker. But aimed at the same altar of destruction. Because remember, they're nihilists and they just don't care. And that foundation is built on the ashes of God's design. Remember, this is just the way that I think. I was born Christian. This is something that makes sense to me. I've traveled to India. I've traveled to Europe. I haven't gone to Africa yet. But Christianity, out of all the religions that I've traveled to and seen and watched and gone into temples, Christianity just makes me happy. So I'm going to stick with it. There's nothing wrong with that. But Christianity definitely is under attack now. Because these people like Nick Fuentes is going to use it against us. And to understand the Groypers' counterfeit gospel, you must look at Rome. You must look to Rome. Not to the Rome of Peter and Paul, but to the Rome of the Black Nobility. And above all, the Orsini clan. For centuries, the Orsini dynasty has specialized in spiritual corruption, turning faith into theater, altars into prisons, and the name of Jesus Christ into a tool for domination. Remember, the toll booth Jesus. I'm not interested in him. Jesus died for our sins. He paid the atonement. It's over. Okay? Satan has nothing on us. We all go to heaven. The Bible says that the fallen angels are the ones that are going to be judged, not us. We're just, we, according to the Bible, I've read it several times, the Bible says we're going to judge angels. Isn't that what Paul said? Yeah, so we're going to be the jury. And the angels, fallen angels, what do we call them? The archons, the interdimensional beings. Well, those are the ones that are the accusers of the brethren, of you and I, non-Christian and Christian, Muslim, Christian, all of you. We're all brethren. We're all brothers and sisters, and we've been told a lie, and we're being separated so we can kill each other so they can make more breath and more power between the clans. But the Orsinis, their fingerprints are everywhere. For counterfeit revival, every hollow crusade dressed in holy robes, but dripping with blood. You can read this on my website. Go to jamescarner.com. I have 3 books there. You can download my free books. One of them is called The Breath War. And it talks about how the devil is after our louche, our breath. Believe it or not, when we breathe in, it comes from God, and we breathe out, it's supposed to go back to God. Kind of like a dialysis machine, cleaning our breath as it goes back up to heaven. But that's not what's happening. They're capturing our breath. Hey, even Whitley Strieber talked about it, and he's not Christian. He talked about it from the aliens' point of view as they're harvesting our spirits from the moon and reincarnating us. Reincarnating. But the Groypers' so-called Christian nationalism is nothing more than the newest mask in this lineage. And on the surface, it looks like zeal, crosses held high, prayers shouted loud, purity demanded. But beneath the surface lies the same Orsini poison. Hatred of women, mockery of family, disdain for true discipleship, and a worship of power over love. It is a religion built on exclusion, on humiliation, on identity politics dressed as faith. We're being conned again. And consider how the Orsini mastered this inversion in history, all throughout. We've got the proof. In the age of the Inquisition, they burned heretics, but they were Christian. Not to protect Jesus Christ, but to consolidate their grip on Rome. And to get rid of the Breakspears, because Orsini's kicked their ass 250 years ago. In the age of Jesuit expansion, they twisted the gospel into a colonial weapon, spreading not the kingdom of God, but the empire of man. Always the method was the same. Take the language of Christianity, strip it of its heart, and refill it with a false spirit, the toll booth Jesus. That is exactly what Nick Fuentes and his Groypers have done. I agree with you, Chad. Only evil people want to control other people. I don't want to control people. I don't walk up, hey, turn to burn. Hey, turn to burn. You're going to go to hell. You're a homosexual. You're going to go to hell. No. No. I've learned better. That doesn't spread love, peace, joy, help. You see, loving your neighbor is being available. That's it. When you see a need, fill the need. But we don't live in a typical world. We live in a fallen world. We live, according to the Ethiopian canon, we live in the age of the Satan's little season. That's what the Ethiopian canon says, and I believe it's the truest form that has not been hacked by the Council of Nicaea, by Constantine, or King James. Now, the Orsini spirit thrives on spectacle, papal crowns, rituals, pageantry. The Groypers follow suit with memes, rallies, chants, and their smug frog mascot. It's all theater, but there's no substance. Nobody feels good. They're angry. And their parody of faith is not meant to strengthen believers, but to corrode them. And every mock question at a conservative event, every speech about true nationalism is another attempt to chip away at the living church and replace it with an idol in Rome's image. That's what's happening. And here lies the bitter irony, folks. While Fuentes claims to resist global Zionism, his very movement is an Orsini product. The same Black Nobility that has manipulated both Zionism and Islam also manipulates false Christianity. And I believe that the Orsinis told Trump to take out Charlie Kirk. Because Trump is losing his base because he knows he was on Lolita Express. And Trump is a PDF file like all the other leaders and CEOs, ambassadors of empire. Because if you read Satanism, if you get to the heart of Luciferianism, if you get to the real heart of who they really worship, their deity asks them to hate women and to harm children. Well, isn't that what the CIA picked up on? MK Ultra? To split personalities from the young and turn them into weapons of war? Well, that's Satanism. It's what they've done even during the times when they were sacrificing to Baal, which is the same thing as what they uncovered. Well, Alex Jones uncovered the Northern California Bohemian Grove. Well, he was allowed in, folks. No one goes in there. They've got security all over the place if they're doing real sacrifices. No, they got in trouble that year for killing a prostitute, a male prostitute. And, well, the county just couldn't shut up about it because they were trying to expose the murder, and the Bohemian Grove had to come clean, and Alex Jones was told to go in there and expose the story. That's why he was there. And then they made a little mock ritual, and they made it look like, oh, we're just playing around the desert. We're just a bunch of guys just getting drunk, hanging out. No. All the world leaders met there to discuss the Bank for International Settlements plans, who works right at the heart of where the devil's throne is. Read the Bible, it'll tell you where his throne is. Geneva, Basel, right in that area. That's where his throne is. Oh, CERN just so happens to be located there too. What a coincidence. Are they trying to open up the gates of hell by picking the lock? The same black nobility that has manipulated both Zionism and Islam also manipulates false Christianity. They do not care which altar you kneel at, so just as long as it's not the true one. And whether it is the synagogue of Zion or the crescent of Mecca or the false cross of the Groypers, the destination is the same: Belial, or Satan, enthroned. So when you see Fuentes rallied against feminists, against conservatives, against Jews, don't be fooled. He is not tearing down the enemy. He is playing his role in an Orsini drama, preparing the young and restless to accept a counterfeit faith. It's the same old lie, the same false altar, built in the same house of shadows. What about the Lee family? Well, if the Orsini specialized in counterfeit faith, the Lee family has long specialized in blood. From the earliest days of America, the Lee dynasty positioned itself as more than just a political clan. They became a hinge between the old black nobility networks of Europe and the emerging intelligence and banking structures of the New World. They did. The Breakspears through the Dents through the Lees. And their fingerprints can be found wherever sudden deaths rewrite history and open the door for carefully prepared replacements. You see, the Lee family is not small. It spans from the aristocracy of Virginia to branches entwined with skull and bones, intelligence, and the hidden hand of the CIA. Yeah, this is who George Bush Sr. was working for. Remember, it was Lee Harvey Oswald who stood accused in the ritual killing of John F. Kennedy. That name was not a coincidence. It was a signal. The very act of tying Lee to America's most public assassination was itself a signature, a quiet boast to those who knew the code. Oh, Rothschilds have a part in it too. Bone, B-O-N-S-S-E 88, Bonesy. Yeah, Rothschilds, they are the devil's bank account. And they were the ones that opened the door for Israel to become a nation so that the fake, false Europe Jews, who aren't the real Jews, that the real Jews are scattered amongst the world, not to return until the end of days. And there's only going to be 144,000 of them. The Jews that are controlling Israel is the synagogue of Satan. But that's another show completely. Now, the Lee apparatus functions as the execution arm of the black nobility's dialectic. Where the Orsini script the ideology, the Lee family arranged the removal. They work through cutouts, intelligence fronts, and covert funding pipelines. The kind of stuff that I'm telling you, it's more top secret than top secret. And I have been able to uncover it because I have read, I have uploaded all history books, all esoteric books into AI. And I was able to find the truth. It's there. They published it, but you have to find the right books that are hidden. Well, I found them. And their assassinations, the Lee family, rarely appear as state actions. Rarely. They are staged as lone wolves, deranged shooters, tragic coincidences. This is the Lee family trying to get rid of the guns in America because they can't take over America when we have guns. Look what Canada got taken over. Now they're screwed. Before they got rid of their guns, they had money in the bank. Now they don't. Look at Australia. Before they took the guns, they had money in the bank. Now they don't. Each time the removal clears the stage, and within hours, the narrative shifts to the replacement waiting in the wings. Now, Charlie Kirk's murder fits this mold. Public, ironic theater. It bore the hallmarks of a Lee-style operation as well. A conservative spokesman removed in a way guaranteed to spark division and chaos. Well, I'm seeing it on TikTok. People hate each other. No, it's all the right's fault. No, it's all left's fault. And almost instantly, the vacuum is filled. Not by chance, not by design. Kirk's pro-Israel loyalty was eliminated, and the Groypers' anti-establishment venom was elevated. This is not grassroots chaos. This is carefully designed order. It's scripted transition. And the Lee's mastery lies not only in pulling triggers, but in controlling the aftermath. Remember, the Lees and the Orsinis are blood. They share the same blood. No, it's not the Lee with the Asian. It's the Lee family, the real Europeans that live there. Nobody even knows that the Europeans live there under the Jewish mantle of Judaism controlling China through the Lee family. It's not the Lee family. It's the Breakspear, Dent, Lee conjoined movement that controls China. It's not Chinese. The Chinese didn't want them to come in, but they came in and they took it over, just like they do. Now, I'm not anti-Semitic. It has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. I love the state of Palestine. Okay? I just don't like the state of Israel because it was under Rothschild growth. The Balfour Declaration and the European Jews who decided they're going to be Jews now. I'm against the Zionist Jews who are fake. They're white Europeans. They all come out of Austria. And they got the money with help of Persia. When Persia took out King Solomon. And we've learned through the Ethiopian canon that God spoke to the Ark of the Covenant when King Solomon screwed up, told the canon to go to a country, or told the Ark of the Covenant to go to a country that was worthy. And that was Ethiopia, who followed the law. Who wasn't legalists. They just appreciated how beautiful God's word was. And they took both old and new, and they kept the scriptures word for word and did not take one word out. And the Lee family, are they Christian? Nope. Are they Judaism? Nope. They're not even Jews. They are just a branch of the black nobilities of Europe, straight from Austria. The Lee's mastery lies not only in pulling triggers, but in controlling aftermath. Media pivots, social networks amplify, law enforcement misdirects. All of it endures that the true hand is never seen. The public sees only the shock and the grief, but the insiders see the ritual, the blood sacrifice that makes way for the new idol. And then you ask yourself, how does this happen? How can such a small group of people control the world? Well, they've got a church in every city. It's called a Mason Hall. And they only choose people to be members of it. You can't just walk in and become a member. And every single Freemason hall takes control of the city and the county by doing favors and doing blackmail, just like the CIA does. Go look up how many Freemason halls are worldwide. It'll shock you. Go look up how many Freemason halls are in the United States alone. It will shock you. So when we trace Kirk's assassination, we got to look past the headlines and into the lineage. The bloodlines. Remember, the Lee family and the Orsini family, they are all the sons of Cain. Okay? Now, is it true? I don't care. But they believe it. They believe that their bloodline is straight from Cain and Abel. When Cain killed his brother Abel, that's when witchcraft began. And they took sorcery from that event and created control, believe it or not, from Abel's blood. Because the Bible says that's where the Spirit resides. And because the Spirit cried out to God saying, avenge me, for my brother killed me. Well, Abel died, and unfortunately, God could not take his spirit back. The breath of God. So it went with Cain's bloodline. And that's how they were able to take power, because they took the spark of God, the spark of life, away from Abel. And then they learned, oh, well, if we kill more people, we get their sparks, we grow power. That's where power comes from. That's how they seduce you. That is the satanic takeover of the world. And when we trace Kirk's assassination, we must look past the headlines. The Lee family's role in America has always been to make sure no populace grows beyond their leash. No conservative voice stays too loyal to the wrong powers. And in that, they serve as the blade of the Black Nobility, cutting down the old so the Orsini can raise the new. They work in tandem. That's right. The Ethiopian Bible still has the Book of Enoch, and it has the correct version. Now, every ritual needs two parts, okay? The sacrifice and the sermon. Blood on the ground and the words in the air. Now, without both, the spell has no power. That is why the Black Nobility never operates through one family alone. Each house plays its own role, and together they complete the ritual, the rite. Now, the Lee hand pulls the trigger. They're the executors, the specialists in removal. Whether through lone shooters, mysterious accidents, or collapses in plain sight, their purpose is to carve out the space. Now, the Lee lineage has always thrived in the shadows of American intelligence, military precision, and covert funding. See, they are the knife that clears the stage. And you're never going to hear any of this information anywhere else, which is why I'm shocked that there's 877 people watching. I think it's a glitch. The Orsini hand writes the script. They are the priests of inversion, crafting the ideology to fill the void, where the Lee family creates absence. The Orsini supply presence. They play good cop, bad cop. They are the yin and the yang. Where the Lees actually create trauma, the Orsinis offer the counterfeit balm. And their talent lies in false Christianity, parading heresy in holy garments, packaging pagan rituals as revival. They are the voice that tells the wounded where to turn. Look at the sequence we now see. Charlie Cook is struck down. His voice is silenced. And within hours, Nick Fuentes rises into the narrative, and his Groypers parading themselves as the authentic torchbearers. The knife of the Lees made the cut. The sermon of the Orsini filled the silence. And together they ensured not only the death of a man, but the redirection of a movement. And this is the dialectic at its purest. Orchestrated opposition. Blood sacrifice followed by ideological replacement. The public sees chaos. And that's the point. The public sees tragedy, and a vacuum is being filled. But in truth, it's choreography, a ritual long perfected by the Zoroastrians, by the sons of Cain, by the Canaanites. Just as monarchs were killed and Jesuits' replacements installed, just as presidents were assassinated and policies rewritten overnight, so now a conservative leader is slain and a false prophet raised in his place. And the genius of this is cooperation, because it feels organic. No single hand is visible. And the assassination looks like random violence. The ideological shift looks like spontaneous reaction. But only those who know the registry can see it for what it is. The two halves of the same altar, the blade and the word, united in one operation. And their goal is not simply to remove and replace. It is to break faith itself, to confuse young men, to fracture conservatism, and to offer a false altar that looks like Christ but belongs to Belial. Guys, nothing in politics, religion, or war survives without money. Movements that appear spontaneous are always bankrolled, always supplied. The Groypers are no exception. While Nick Fuentes portrays himself as a martyr of censorship, canceled by mainstream platforms, well, the truth is simpler. His infrastructure is too polished, too resilient, too coordinated to be organic. And behind every live stream, every rally, every legal battle, there are veins of gold flowing from hands much older than his own. Consider the costs. Fuentes has faced repeated bans from YouTube, Twitter, PayPal, and banks. And yet his streams continue uninterrupted. Why? How? Hosted on custom-built platforms? That alone requires developers, servers, and financial networks willing to take risks. Risks that no ordinary grassroots movement could shoulder. His rallies draw coordinated groups of young men all across state lines. Travel, lodging, staging, all of it requires quiet funding. Even his legal defenses mounted for deplatforming in January 6th investigation that would have cost millions in defense have not bankrupted him. Who pays these bills? Not high school students with frog memes. Sorry. This is the hidden lifeline. The same dark finance channels that sustained revolutions and terror groups alike. And let's not forget the last France Olympics, okay? And the band Gojira playing on a castle, and the whole scene was revolution. Well, revolution is coming to America. That's what they were saying. According to Bonzi, Nick had 93,000 people watching tonight. Is he on Rumble? Claire says, have you seen photos of Ethiopia? It's no third world. Just as the Bolsheviks were funded through Wall Street intermediaries, did you know that? The Bolsheviks were funded by New York. Just as Mussolini received backing from London bankers, so too does Fuentes receive invisible streams of capital. It is laundered through anonymous donations, crypto wallets, fan support, and shadow nonprofits. But the source is the exact same. Ancient families who ensure their puppets never run dry. So don't buy into it, okay? Again, I'm not left, I'm not right. I hate politics. Politics means to control a group of people. And even the very meme culture of the Groypers is subsidized. Think of the bot farms. You know how much money it costs to make bot farms? Oh. The coordinated floods of hashtags, the sudden surges in visibility. Dude, those are not just bored young men. These are psychological operations, digital campaigns funded and timed to overwhelm. Most likely, probably including DARPA and the Tavistock Institute. And money pays for algorithms. Money pays for amplification, for influence disguised as virality. And without it, the Groypers would remain a fringe Discord cult. With it, they are framed as the vanguard of youth conservatism. So this show is all about warning you guys. Don't believe this. They are not Christian. They work for the enemy, the bankers. The bankers are the true enemy. They are the cause of all of our symptoms. Follow the patterns. You'll see the logic. The Black Nobility never lets a vacuum remain empty. And Kirk's death was not just the silencing of a man, but the opening of a market. And into that market, Fuentes is sold as a product. And like every product, he is financed, packaged, and distributed by investors who expect a return, not in dollars, but in your soul. And the Groypers may mock capitalism, feminism, Zionism, and conservatism, but behind their curtain lies the same old banks, the same old bloodlines, ensuring the lights never go out and the microphones never go silent. This is not grassroots. It is payroll. Now, I've got a lot more to say about this. I've got literally another half an hour of information, but I'm just going to close it with that. Going to go to a commercial, and then we're going to head out of here. Guys, thank you so much. This has been James Carner, and
why do 75% of people feel exhausted all the time? The answer might surprise you. In the 1920s, Standard Oil decided to dive into medicine. They pushed synthetic petroleum into our drugs. Sure, it masked symptoms, but it wrecked our guts. Our good bacteria, which fight off parasites and heavy metals, got wiped out by crude oil. But here's the good news. We can fix this by going back to nature. Introducing Elite Potion, the world's top detox program. It restores your good bacteria by removing toxic threats like aluminum, strontium, barium, and parasites. Imagine feeling energized and alive again. They said there couldn't be a pill that did it all. We invented it. Visit elitepotion.com and reclaim your health from synthetic pharmaceuticals. Your body will thank you.
This has been Cause Before Symptom. I'm your host, James Carner. Tune in tomorrow night when God gives me another revelation to tell you guys all about. God bless you, God keep you, and God thank you for supporting my show. Go to jamescarner.com and sign up to my newsletter. That's the only way I can get a hold of you if I get shut down. Also, I got 3 books there. You can download them for free. Go to elitepotion.com and sign up for my company, my award-winning Elite Potion Heavy Metal and Parasite Cleanse. You'll feel better, I promise. And if you could all do me one big favor, if you could all just try to love your neighbor, well, I do believe this world would be a better place. We'll see you tomorrow, 9 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is James with Cause Before Symptom. Bye.